Morning, church. My name is Baron Brock. I'm going to be doing the morning devotional with you guys. And we're going to be in Luke 21 through 25. That's in chapter 1, if you want to go ahead and turn there. And this morning, I want to ponder an idea. That would be, what approach should I take? What heart attitude, what mindset should I have in dealing with tests in my life? Tests come our way often. Sometimes it's a test of patience with the kids, right? Sometimes it's a test of character. Are we who we say that we are, right? And ultimately, a lot of times it's a test of our faithfulness and our trust in the Lord. Do I really believe that God is working in my life, right? And today, I want to give the answer to that question. What's the attitude, approach that we should have with tests in our life? So let's dive in. So Zachariah and Elizabeth are our two main characters. They are both very old, and Elizabeth is barren, so they've been unable to have kids. Zachariah is a priest, and he's actually been chosen to burn incense for the day in the temple before the Lord. And an angel appears to him while he's doing this. This is Gabriel. Gabriel says, you're going to have a son, and you're going to name him John. This is going to be John the Baptist. And Zachariah, seemingly in a sense of unbelief, says, hey, can I have a sign that this is going to happen? Gabriel telling me is not enough. And so Gabriel says, well, you're actually going to be mute for the whole time that the child is in the womb until he's born. So over 9 months of being mute. And we jump into verse 21 of chapter 1. And the people waited for Zacharias and marveled that he lingered so long in the temple. But when he came out, he could not speak to them, and they perceived that he had seen a vision in the temple, for he beckoned to them and remained speechless. And so Gabriel is right. Zacharias is mute and unable to speak right away. He comes out of the temple, and he's probably trying to sign, whatever, that hey, this angel came to me, I'm going to have a son. I don't know how he communicated that, but he did somehow. And so Zachariah gets a sign, but probably not the sign he was hoping for, right? His unbelief makes his life a little more challenging. He's not able to speak for 9 months. I'm sure the amount of arguments he got into was a lot less, but every other aspect of his life probably was a lot more challenging. And so we continue in 23. So it was, as soon as the days of his service were completed, that he departed to his own house. And after those days, his wife Elizabeth conceived, and she hid herself 5 months, saying, Thus the Lord has dealt with me in the days when he looked on me to take away my reproach among people. And so Zechariah goes home. He served his time in Jerusalem, and he goes back to wherever he's living. And Elizabeth is actually able to have a child. Yet she hides herself from everyone for 5 months. And then she kind of says this thankful statement. And so there's two things that are going on here that I kind of want to point out. One, as a woman and a Jew, for her, and just in that culture in that day, there's a lot of scorn or being looked down on for not being able to have a child. I'm sure a lot of people probably came up to her and said, hey, something is wrong between you and the Lord. That's why you can't have kids. And we know from previous verses that this actually isn't true, right? But this was probably the perception that people had of Elizabeth because she was barren. And so Elizabeth is believing in the Lord and praising him for removing this judgment from her, right? So, and notice who she says who the reproach is with. It's not with God, it's the people around her. And she has full faith and firm in her belief that she is right with the Lord and knows that he's blessing her and finally removing this opinion from her, vindicating her in a sense. And number two, she confirms what God is doing. She's willing to be patient and wait. She's not quick to exalt herself to show everyone that she's finally conceived. She wants to walk with the Lord steadily for a few months and confirm what he is doing and be right there with him and make sure that, hey, this is actually what the Lord is doing. And that's super cool. And we see in this brief little section that we kind of have unbelief in Zechariah, and life is a little more challenging. And then we see that with Elizabeth, belief is far better. The Lord vindicates her and gives her a child. And Zechariah is kind of humbled and forced to not speak for a time. And I'll think of it this way. Imagine you have a test coming up or an exam you need to complete, maybe something that you have to do for work or something like that. And generally, if you don't believe that you're going to pass the test at all, or there's no chance, right, your level of effort to study and to put in work to try to pass significantly decreases. And the odds are you're probably not going to succeed, right? I don't think anybody has ever passed a challenging test with putting in no effort. But if you do think there's a chance that you can pass, if you do believe in some sense that you can make it, you're probably going to put in a lot of effort. You're going to try your best, and oftentimes you pass, right? Because you put in the work to get there. And this principle applies to our lives in a little bit different of a way, namely with our belief in the Lord. And we see that with Zacharias and Elizabeth, kind of the tests in their life. Do they believe they're going to have a son? Zacharias is probably thinking practically, physically, there's no way. His wife is barren. They're too old. But Elizabeth thinks spiritually, and she believes, and she stays strong with the Lord throughout the process. She's not arrogant to tell everyone, and she's willing to go step by step with the Lord. And so this morning, I really pray that you guys would realize that unbelief will get you nowhere spiritually. It'll never get you through the tests that you're going to face in life, and you'll never see God move in a mighty way if you doubt Him around every corner. I think even for Elizabeth, practically, she was probably praying for a child for years, but now it's finally come true, and not even in the way that she probably thought it would, in a very different way. Here she is later in life and only with a single child, but the Lord has worked, and her belief proved out to be true. And so this morning I would pray for you in the tests in your life, that you would believe God and stay faithful. I pray that blesses you this morning, and I pray you have a blessed day.